Welcome to the next installment of my video lecture series for intermediate microeconomics. And in this particular video lecture, we're going to be taking a look at an equilibrium, so we're given supply and demand equations. And then we're going to take a look at the impact of a supply shock, i.e. the supply curve is shifting. And also we're going to take a look at what's the impact of a capacity constraint on a supply curve. So in this one, we're looking at the supply and demand of show tickets. The quantity demanded is equal to 100 minus P, and the quantity supplied is equal to 20 plus P. So in order to get the equilibrium, what do? We set the demand equation and the supply equation equal to one another. So we have 100 minus P is equal to 20 plus P. So if we add P to both sides and subtract 20 from both sides, we end up with 80 is equal to 2P, and dividing by 2 gives us an equilibrium price of 40. So in order to determine the equilibrium quantity, we can place that price of 40 into the demand equation and the supply equation. I generally recommend that students do it to both, so they can test whether or not they've actually gotten the equilibrium price correctly. So if we put 40 into the demand equation for the price, we get 100 minus 40 is equal to 60. So we do the same for the supply. We put 40 in for P, so we have 20 plus P, and that gives us a quantity supplied of 60. So we got the same answer, so we can be very certain that we've gotten the equilibrium price correct because the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied are equal to one another at that equilibrium price. So there's our initial equilibrium. So what's going to occur is we're going to change the supply curve. There's going to be a supply shock. Let's say that there's an increase in the wages being paid to actors, and this is going to cause the supply curve to shift to the left. So we have a new supply curve. So it's now the quantity supplied is equal to 10 plus P. So we go through the same process. We set demand and supply equal to one another, which gives us 100 minus P equals 10 plus P. So we add P to both sides and subtract 10 from both sides, which gives us 90 plus 2P. And dividing by 2 gives us an equilibrium price of 45. We place that equilibrium price back into the demand and the supply curves. So we get 100 minus 45 is equal to 55. And for the quantity supplied, it is 10 plus 45, which gives us 55. So the new equilibrium price, given the supply shock, the supply curve shifting to the left, is now equal to $45 per ticket, and the equilibrium quantity is equal to 55. The other portion of this is to realize what occurs when we introduce a capacity constraint. I.e., let's say that the theater only seats 50 people. So generally what I tell students to do is just to draw out your supply curve as normal. Please note that this is the original supply curve, the first supply curve that we started with. So we have QS is equal to 20 plus P. Then draw in the capacity constraint vertically. So for example, if the theater only holds 50 people, draw a vertical line straight up and showing that as the capacity constraint. And the operational part of the new supply curve is going to be this initial section of the original supply curve, QS is equal to 20 plus P, until we hit the capacity constraint, and then it's vertical at that capacity constraint. And that price of 30 is just where the supply curve reaches the capacity constraint. So make sure you're comfortable with that. If there's an introduction of a capacity constraint, how to construct the supply curve using the supply curve that's given plus the capacity constraint.